The silence in the gilded spoon could have knocked you over thick as wet concrete, heavy with all the stares and whispered judgments you'd expect from London's most elite crowd, the kind of people who act like nothing can surprise them until it does. And trust me, that night, nobody was ready for what happened. Conversation died out mid-sentence, forks hung in the air, and every eye locked on this little corner where a 10-year-old girl, Clara, sterling legs trembling, metal braces glinting under the chandelier, held out her hand to Samuel Hayes, the only black waiter in the room. The band was just easing into a bluesy tune, nothing you'd want to dance to if you worried about looking foolish, but Clara's need to connect outweighed any fear. Then, out of nowhere, this icy voice manager Isabella sliced through. "Sir, control your daughter. That's inappropriate." You could see Eleanor Sterling, Clara's mother, tighten up. Here's a woman so powerful she could buy the whole block, but in that moment, she was just a mom, scared and stuck, not knowing what to do. "Clara, sit down," she whispered, voice barely holding together. Samuel, meanwhile, didn't flinch. 5 years working this place, he'd mastered the art of invisibility, especially for patrons like Eleanor Sterling, who once dismissed a grant for his own charity with a single signature. But something in the air shifted. He peeled off his crisp, white jacket slow, deliberate, and smiled at Clara. "Can't dance in a jacket, can I?" he joked, voice soft enough to melt the frost off that whole dining room. Eleanor stood up, sharp. "What do you think you're doing?" Samuel looked her right in the eyes. "I'm accepting an invitation, Mom." Before anyone could protest, Clara took a step, painful, awkward, metal scraping against marble, but Samuel let her lead. He matched her pace, didn't try to guide, just walked beside her like it was the most natural thing in the world. Someone at a table hissed, "He's getting fired tomorrow." You could see it in Eleanor's face, the flash of memory. Her late husband, Christopher, dancing with Clara, telling her it's about connection. For the first time since the accident that changed everything, Clara wasn't being pushed or pitted. She was leading, and that tiny, wobbly smile of hers filled the whole room. When Samuel gently led her back to the table after a few steps, he bowed, said, "Thank you for asking me out. It was an honor." He turned to go, but Eleanor's voice, softer, shaky, called out, "Wait. What's your full name?" "Samuel Hayes, Mom." She pressed a business card into his palm, told him, "My office. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The room was holding its breath. Samuel took that card, hands only shaking a little. As he left, Clara asked, "Mom, why did you do that?" No answer, just the weight of a mother realizing she'd missed something important. As dinner continued, nobody noticed Samuel walking out with his quiet determination, but the storm inside Eleanor was just starting. The next morning, Sterling House was all glass and marble, intimidating enough to make anyone feel out of place, but Samuel stood tall in his best suit. At reception, he announced himself, Samuel Hayes, to CMS. Sterling, up to the 18th floor, led by Mr. Jenkins, the kind of mid-level exec who's seen it all. Jenkins tried to warn him. "She had you fired, didn't she?" Powerful people don't like being surprised. Samuel just smiled. "And where would you say my place is?" Before Jenkins could answer, Eleanor's assistant waved Samuel in. Eleanor's office was a Kingdom London skyline spread out behind her like she owned it. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming," she said, cool as ice, but Samuel wasn't intimidated. She wanted his resume college, child psychology, master's in adaptive movement therapy unfinished because he had to take care of family. He worked 3 jobs: waiter, charity shop, support worker. Eleanor opened a folder. She'd done her homework, knew about Kinetic Strides, his movement program for disabled kids. She offered him a job as a therapeutic companion for Clara. "I'll pay you 5 times what you make now." But Samuel shook his head. "No, ma'am. I don't work for people who see my color or my background before my competence. And I don't work for people who tried to buy solutions after rejecting them the first time." Eleanor bristled. "You're turning down a way out of your financial problems for pride?" "Not pride, dignity," Samuel said, calm as ever. "Clara doesn't need another expert. She needs someone who'll let her lead her own life." He left his card on her desk. Kinetic Strides, Tuesday and Thursday, first class is free. As he left, Jenkins whispered, "You're crazy," and Samuel just grinned. "Maybe, but I'd rather be crazy than be property." A week later, a Rolls-Royce parked outside the shabby community center. Clara was in the back seat, Eleanor in the front, looking out of place and uncomfortable. Samuel's brother Kai, running the place, muttered, "She's not coming in. People like her don't." Samuel only smiled. Never underestimate a determined daughter. The car door swung open. Clara stepped out first, then Eleanor, both uncertain, both brave in their own way. Inside, the center buzzed with kids' wheelchairs, braces, laughter, and chaos. Eleanor sniffed. "It looks chaotic." Samuel nodded. "It's structure, just not the kind you're used to." He sent Clara to join the class. Kai sat Eleanor down, whispered, "First day is always hardest for the parents." A minute later, the door opened and in walked Dr. Alex Mercer, a legend in neuroplasticity. Eleanor stiffened. Mercer smiled. "You've rejected my proposals 3 times. I didn't expect to see you here," she admitted, still defensive. "I run the research program here," Mercer replied, pride obvious. Eleanor realized the truth. Samuel wasn't just a waiter. He'd led the research she dismissed. Samuel explained, "I had to leave my master's, but this is my work helping kids find autonomy, not just recovery." The penny dropped. The dance at the restaurant hadn't been staged. Clara had led. Samuel had simply followed. And now, with reporters suddenly arriving, Eleanor felt the walls close in. "You used my daughter for publicity," she snapped. Samuel showed her the plans for a future, sent her empty frames on the wall for the dreams they couldn't fund. "We could help 500 kids a year, not just 50, but we need support." A commotion drew everyone back. Clara, in the center of the room, music off, was balancing on a single brace. Eleanor rushed to help, but Samuel held her back. "Wait. Watch." Clara took a step. The kids cheered, flashes popped, and Eleanor, for once, let herself really feel what was happening. "That's why we do this," Samuel said. "Not for perfect steps, but for first steps on your own." Now, Eleanor faced a choice: retreat into her shell of power and pride, or embrace her daughter's victory. Reporters swarmed. One asked, "Is it true your foundation rejected funding for this program?" Eleanor hesitated. Then, surprising everyone, even herself, she admitted, "You know what's hardest? Admitting when we're wrong." She announced 5 years funding for Kinetic Strides and a new center, but only if Samuel had full control. True leadership here lies in following. 3 months later, construction started on the new center. Clara visited often, growing stronger, more confident. Her old therapist had said she'd never walk unaided for years, but here she was, walking, leading. Eleanor attended board meetings, joked with Samuel about learning neuroscience at 50, and asked, finally, why he never accepted her apology. "Because you never gave one. You changed policies, funded us, but that's compensation, not apology." Eleanor nodded, accepting the truth. At the opening ceremony, the energy was nothing like that tense night at the Gilded Spoon. Clara, in a light brace, led a dance for a room full of children, her movements smooth, self-assured. Eleanor stood in the back, proud not just of Clara's recovery, but of her transformation into a leader for others. When a reporter asked, "What's the biggest lesson?" Eleanor answered, "True leaders are the ones who know when to follow." A year passed. Kinetic Strides grew to 3 cities. Samuel received an award. Clara became a youth ambassador, and Eleanor, once all power and pride, learned that the real gift isn't control, it's letting go. Sometimes, real change only happens when the rich learn from the humble, when a billionaire lets a waiter show her the way, when a mother follows in her daughter's steps. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of revolution that starts with a dance, a step, and the courage to follow. So here do you stand on who really leads and who truly follows? Let me know below, because sometimes the most important power is knowing when to step back and let someone else show you the way.